gets the delay.
What do you work?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I have my head down. We start the broadcast with a 20-second delay, and I got my head down there doing something else. So welcome, everybody. Let's see who's here. We got Debbie's here. Hey, Debbie, how are you? Mark is having some audio challenges. His voice sounds like shit.
This is what it sounds like. Sorry about that. It's
being a little quieter now. I don't hear you at all, Mark.
You can't hear me at all?
Yeah, nothing now.
Wow. Okay. Let me keep playing with that.
Nope, can't hear you at all. So at any rate, once again, we're back here for another episode. Nope, nothing, Mark. And let me see. Last week we had a surprise guest, Steven Siciliano, the manager owner of Power Automate, one of Microsoft's biggest products. Week before we had Ryan Cunningham, who runs the PowerApps part of Power Platform. And in about 15 minutes, we'll have another guest that Mark again is unaware of and may not be able to converse with today. He's just going to use hand signals. How's your sign language? So I just got off, actually, I just exited the ISV PAC meetings right as the executives, James Phillips, Alyssa Taylor, Bahe, and Jeff York were coming on to the Q&A. I got to ask Alyssa one quick question, and then I bounced out of that to come over and join you fine folks to talk about Power Platform. The ISV PAC, well, all the PAC stuff is NDA, so I can't really talk about any details, but other than the stuff that's pretty much all well known, they definitely seem to be very interested in promoting their Microsoft clouds. If you recall, they launched a cloud for healthcare, kind of based on their Healthcare Accelerator. And as I thought at the time, they're proceeding to launch their other clouds for retail based on that accelerator, for banking based on that accelerator. So that's coming to market. They're continuing to talk to ISVs about how this isn't taking away opportunity for ISVs, it's adding potentially more opportunity, and had some examples of some ISVs that had built some stuff in and around the accelerators on those platforms. So we'll see where that goes. It's not a direction we're pursuing in particular, but we'll see where that goes. I did complain about the lack of support for SMB in general. There's a motion in the market now through what they call the Global Demand Center, where they're funneling all the SMB leads. So anybody interested in SMB, all the SMB leads are funneled to the Global Demand Center, where they are evaluated. If they're big enough, someone from Microsoft will get on the phone and talk to them. If they're not, they're kind of unqualified. In either case, they get sent on to a select group of partners as either unqualified or qualified SMB leads. And the select group of partners are all SIs, not ISVs, of course. They're all SIs, and they are all managed. So if you are not a managed partner, which most likely would mean you probably focus on SMB, you won't get any SMB leads from Microsoft. So that annoyed me a little bit because we're not managed, never wanted to be managed. And I thought that was a little bit of an oxymoron. Let's send all of our SMB leads only to managed partners. And if you don't know, the way to become managed is to sell a shit ton of Microsoft licenses, which is hard to do in the SMB space. And it isn't the number, it's the value. So there aren't many partners out there that have sold a shit ton of licenses that focus on SMB. So these partners are probably larger partners that couldn't care less about SMB and are just really scraping through the pile of leads sent to them to try and find, bigger customers in that mix. And I don't know what's happened to the rest of the customers, but we'll see. How you doing on your audio, Mark? We got our guest coming up in 10 minutes.
You can't hear me at all.
You can't hear even the static now. I got nothing from you.
You got nothing.
So in our pre-call, which I was very late to, I got about 5 minutes before showtime here. I was able to jump on, and Mark says, "Hello," and it all sounds all static. I couldn't hardly make out anything he was saying. So he's got his fancy new computer, which apparently we're all going to regret. So I'm gonna have to carry the day.
Am I back yet?
Oh, great.
Check 1, 2.
Yeah, perfect audio now.
You're kidding me.
Because they can't hear you at all. That's why they're saying it's perfect. It's the best audio there can be. No Mark at all. Hand signals. Well, you were better before, even with the static, than nothing at all. What'd you do? Can anybody hear anything from him? I don't think so.
Did somebody hear me? Am I coming through all right?
Said she thought she could hear you a little bit, but
can you hear me at all? Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Anything? It sounds like I'm coming through. It looks like I am. Can you hear me? Is there anyone on the stream can hear me? Give me an update. Crystal clear.
Can anybody hear him?
Yeah. Turn your volume up, mate.
They can hear you. Why can I not hear you then?
Okay. Is your volume down on your side, maybe?
Let me try something else here. Maybe now it's on my end.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Now
now I can hear you.
Okay, we're in business. Man, I was gonna go, shit, how am I gonna run this show like this? Okay, cool.
Yeah, because we know I do not run the show. I'm the color commentary.
So I have a question. Did you ask James Phillips about his new title and what does it mean? You know, we saw last week on LinkedIn, he upgraded his name to President of Digital Transformation Platform Group. Was like a new promotion or something. Everyone was, give him a quick handy, congratulating him, that type of thing. And I just wondered, has anything been said about that?
I don't know, but I think over here, giving him a handy has a different meaning than it must in New Zealand.
Oh no, it means the same thing here. Like, it's a term for like brown nosing or everyone. Okay. You're amazing. You're amazing. Okay, good. He just changed his role title.
Come up during the ISV pack about that change, and I didn't notice the LinkedIn change to his title. Maybe our guest will know something about that.
Yeah, so his title now is President, Digital Transformation Platform Group.
Yeah, maybe they've renamed Business Applications Group.
Well, you know how I said last time that I felt that Power BI was making much more of a prominent part of the Power Group. We knew it always had the Power name, but it was always it seemed to be in a kind of a different group to some degree, even though he started it. But now I noticed that Alyssa, her big promo for Ignite recently was all around the new features in Power BI, which is something we actually didn't drill into, but there's some pretty amazing kind of offline capabilities that they've brought to PowerApps, to Power BI, my understanding is.
Yeah, I mean, that product has been around for a while. Certainly that product's been around longer than anything else in the Power Platform, other than Dynamics, which I guess you could say it's Power Platform. So it wouldn't surprise me that it has its own customer base, its own partner base, which were not traditional business applications partners. So yeah, maybe this is just Philip's net getting a little wider or clearer over what he's doing there.
Norm, I've turned me down a bit. Is that a bit better? I've got control of my volume now. Just
a little too quiet now.
You're too quiet, but you turn your volume up because my volume to the stream is probably okay. Gotcha. But all right. Just balancing between us.
I see Norm saying you're too loud.
Yeah, in the stream, and so I've got a bit of control over that. But one of the things I've been working on in the last week. Oh, how far are we before our guest joins?
6 minutes.
Okay, so
assuming they're on time.
I'm on a project currently. And I decided to use for this project Sales Accelerator, which is part of customer, what is it called? Part of Sales Insights.
Yep.
And I was left scratching my head about was this once again a box ticking exercise to go, we've got this type of tooling, yet it just absolutely doesn't come close to meeting the mark of what's in market. Like,
You're talking about compared to something like Outreach or what SalesSpark was trying to be?
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't even come close, because like one of the biggest things that was my complaint, and I haven't looked recently around playbooks, is that if you can't put a slug in a message, you know, a slug being dear first name, you know, blah, 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 or dear, or, you know, company reference, that type of thing. What you end up with if a tool creates a whole bunch of tasks or activities for you to do, all the activities all have the same title, name, blah, blah, blah. There's no actual way of going, oh, that's company A, that's company B, that's company C. And this new functionality, which I was so excited because they used the word sequences, and I'm like, yes, they're on the right track. And it looks like they've gone to an industry book and gone, oh, we need the word sequences in here. Let's put that in there. In the sequences, we'll give you 4 types: email, phone, task, and a set a wait time. And you're kind of like, is that it? Like, what about all the other stuff? Like about how long, you know, tracking how long the wait time's been. Did it automatically exit the sequence if they engaged back? All these kind of things are standard things that you need in a sequence. And so I went, you know, on this customer's project to go and use this amazing sequence feature functionality. And it's just, I come away going, why? Like this, the level of frustration for me at realizing it is nowhere near what SalesSpark was, not even a fraction of what it was. And that was our MVP product we landed.
You know, I mean, they frequently, I think, start out with a checkbox, like you say, meeting a checkbox, and then they either continue development and build it into something real, or they don't, it just stays a checkbox. You know, some of the simple things, just like the multi-select pick list comes to mind, is something that they threw together to meet a checkbox. It still isn't any better than it was before. It is almost useless. You know, you can't use it in workflows. You can't import it. You can't do anything with that other than display it on a page. Yeah. So it started as a checkbox and stopped right there. So I'm wondering about this, but this has been out now for a while. Yeah, a year.
Over a year, you know? And it's just, I don't know, it could have been amazing, and it could have been really what took the product forward. Oh, I mean, shall I let the guest in?
Yes, please.
I'm impressed you've got her, because I've never been able to get this lady on my podcast.
Really?
She's joining us now.
Maybe she didn't know that you were involved.
Yeah, truly, truly. It's so true. Okay, she come up on screen here. She's not in the feed. She's on mute.
So like all of our Microsoft guests, they struggle with Zoom for a little bit to get it going.
Julie, how are you?
Of course we do. It's our obligation to struggle.
Yeah. Well, we want to use Teams for this, but unfortunately, Teams doesn't allow us to stream live.
Sorry.
So we have to use this. So how are you, Julie?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Well, not too bad. I was telling Mark, just finishing up ISV Pack. I had to dip out of the executive Q&A. But you know, some pretty good stuff happening there. And what are you focused on now? I know before you were deep in the ISV tools, but I know your mandate has grown significantly since then.
Yeah, I'm still deep in ISVs. But yes, the team has expanded quite a bit. So obviously, we have the same focus, I would say, if not more, actually, on the ISV space. But overall, my eyes are also now focused on the admin and governance space, as well as kind of pro developer. So I really think of us driving 3 audiences: the IT pro, so the pro developers, the ISVs, as well as the admin space, essentially. But obviously, even admin spans many personas. We have the core administrator, we have kind of the governance teams, and etc. So there are many different audiences. So it keeps me on my toes.
So we're talking about PPAC.
PPAC. Not say PPAC in public, please. Yes.
COE.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so the Power
Studio,
Platform Admin Center. Mm-hmm.
and ISV Studio is still falling under you, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're keeping busy.
So
Yeah.
you were the star of the show for Ignite when it came to you and Charles Lamana presenting and demoing. How did that go for you?
You know what? These virtual events have been very educational. Like it's a lot. I feel we have a broad reach. I feel we are really focused to be very crisp and clear on what we want to say in a short amount of time. And I know that we are opening up for so many people to be able to enjoy as well. Obviously, we always like the personal engagements and the in-room conversations, but I actually feel we are getting a lot of great feedback even on the virtual events, and just the ability for people to catch up. I think the events change a little bit. It's more about giving you all the information and you can go and dive deeper. But yeah, it's been very good. We have had lots of good feedback. I think as you saw, the governance space that I am covering, like these have been requests we've had for such a long time. So I feel there's a great appreciation for what we do, and I feel we've made a lot of progress in the last year. So it was very exciting for us.
Oh, Toby did say that there wouldn't be any in-person events for this year. So it won't be, so it's going to be virtual, but we do seem to be getting better at virtual. Each event that goes, I mean, just getting off ISV Connect, it's getting more crisp. It's getting, like, they're kind of figuring out how that stuff works. And when you think about some of the public events, like, well, even the big annual conference, Inspire, when they look back at the massive number of people that are able to attend virtually that couldn't have attended in person, you got to wonder what's in it for Microsoft to go back to in person. They get so much more of an audience, so much broader an audience.
Yeah, I think it will probably be and I'm purely speculating. I think it will be a little bit of both. We definitely feel much broader reach, but I do still feel a lot of the value. Obviously, one of the things I love about the in-person conferences is the expo hall. You can go and find a person, ask questions, and that connection you're kind of missing. And I think that's both lost on Microsoft as well as the attendees. But I think we will remain in a combo where we will do much more virtual events.
Well, and partners too, because I mean, I've pulled you aside at various events to discuss things that are specific to me that I don't necessarily want to discuss.
Now you pull me aside regardless, so.
Yeah. Well, now I just have to do it on the phone, but that was part of the thing about an event. You kind of get somebody and talk about your specific issue, whereas in these virtual, everything you say, everybody's listening to it. I don't necessarily want everybody listening to things about my plans,
Yeah.
What do you do with these sales? What was it called? The Sales Accelerator.
Mostly just that we obviously, so my team also own a lot of the infrastructure for solutioning and packaging. So, and obviously, as you know, the common data model and how Dataverse fits in. So indirectly, we are pulled into a lot of those conversations, just even talking about the ISV ecosystem. How do we make it so much easier to package up? And obviously also the areas of the Power Platform Admin Center for users to deploy, all that kind of plumbing behind the scenes for how you, from starting a solution, packaging up, ideally publishing to app source and installing, we are part of all of that. So we are working very closely with the solution teams on kind of making these very good experiences. And I think in our work with these internal teams, there's actually many maybe invisible benefits to the third-party ecosystem in the sense that as we run through these processes, it's very easy for us to see kind of the impact of where we need to improve and remove friction, etc. So I feel it's beneficial for external as well during our collaborations there.
What are you seeing on the ISV landscape side of things, and particularly in the COVID year that we've just come off, but we're still in that some of the ISVs that I've been engaged with, particularly in the US, have totally pivoted their business from building an ISV solution to taking their product and actually using it to run a whole line of business that they had built to sell to others. Are you seeing momentum in the ISV channel? Are you seeing more of that type of pivoting? What's the kind of the word you're hearing from ISVs engaging, even with the new clouds that Microsoft are bringing out? You know, some ISVs are feeling a bit threatened by it. What are you feeling?
So I'll peel them apart. I'll take the solutioning and the feel of being threatened, and I want to talk about some of the trends we are hearing with ISVs. In the sense of feeling threatened, it makes me a little bit sad in the way that maybe we are not articulating the value and why we are doing it to the extent we should. I honestly see that as a huge benefit. Obviously, we will have solutions in market, but I feel we help paving the way for ISVs to go and be specific and be deep. And again, in this collaboration, we are doing a ton of investments that will just accelerate it for everyone. So I see it no different that we are building a sales app, etc., that you can extend. So I do feel that it is actually in the goodness of the community to get more focus on it and help accelerate time to market for solutions. But I take it as a cue. We need to maybe do better messaging around it. I think in terms of key things that we are hearing and seeing from ISVs, two meta points I would call out is we see pivoting a little bit in the type of solutions, because with COVID, a whole new demand has like literally come up in just the type of solutions, right? So obviously the back to school, healthcare, etc. So there's just new opportunities in the market that you need to go solve digitally. And Power Platform is so well suited to do that. We also feel a little bit of the pressure to move off face-to-face, right? So where you before might spend much more time as a consultant, we see much more desire to do maybe smaller, more explicit solutions, like go and build an app for this and an app for this. So the app suite, we do see a pickup in, like so a little bit more pivoting towards ISV versus being each solution for a specific customer. So those are kind of some of the things we are seeing. We obviously also see a pressure to just run quicker, iterate over the solutions and get them to customers faster, which is just pure pressure of getting solutions out, so reducing the time to market.
Yeah.
A third thing, go ahead, Steve.
No, get your third thing.
My third thing is actually how we see a lot of the ecosystem pivot around extensibility through Azure as well. I think it's probably been there all along, but we see more kind of embracing solutions that span outside the BIS app components, where you bring in additional logic and value through Azure. So that's another part where I feel we see an increase just in creativity for how you build solutions together and put them together.
And some of that, maybe unintended results of licensing that may be driving people to, there was someone asked a question about the way the Power Portal product is so expensive. Well, in certain scenarios, it is too expensive. It doesn't make sense mathematically at all. So then they may be pivoting over to, let's really have to go build something on Azure or something like that instead to solve this problem. So some of the licensing funkiness sometimes I think may drive some of this behavior, which is less than ideal. Obviously, we have a portal product that should be able to be used for any portal requirement out there. And some of it just doesn't, from a licensing standpoint, work for us. So they're kind of forced to, okay, we've got to go to plan B.
Yeah. And, no, and that's obviously not the ideal situation. And I do as well, like we keep listening to feedback and working through kind of the feedback we are hearing. And also obviously with COVID and with portals moving in, we do see different scenarios as well. So it's a balance between making sure we design portals for the right thing, but also listening to feedback and see where we need to go. But obviously licensing should not be the reason you are pivoting. to another solution. But there are many reasons why both partners and customers do bring in Azure components just for enriching solutions, etc., which obviously is a good thing.
I think
to see what happens to some of these COVID solutions that were built to solve a temporary problem. I mean, I can't imagine we're going to be living with this forever. I mean, we're all, vaccines are going out, and I mean, it won't be long before this is old news, and people will be going back to normal. And so it was great for some exposure for Power Platform to be able to have people, have an urgent need for something and made some discovery. But that thing they built probably won't be needed in the near future. But at least they will have made the discovery of what can be done on that platform, quickly and at a low cost. So it couldn't have hurt.
No, definitely. And I think it is exposing that, oh my God, look how much you can do in such a small amount of time. And there are lots of apps that I think will always live for a shorter amount of time, which is really also very often how we talk about our governance efforts, because you have demonstrated how quickly you can get a solution up and running. You will certainly start to see a lot more creative thinking for where you can digitalize and collect the data. So I hope that's something that will remain. Sorry, Mark, I think you were.
Yeah. So what I was noticing with the Ignite just running and Alyssa Taylor's promo videos leading up is that we're seeing a lot more of Power BI being talked about as part of the Power Platform, even though we've known it's been that. Is there been some strategic changes internally that's making Power BI much more, I wouldn't say integrated because it's always been integrated, but much more of the central Power Platform story coming from Microsoft now?
No, I feel we probably have had that push internally for a while. And as you know, we do integrate, but I do see the more customers who obviously use the full platform, the more we kind of listen to that signal as well, and we discover new areas where we just need to operate more tightly. So I think it's a natural pressure and a natural force that has been happening over probably a longer period of time, but you kind of see that come to fruition now. Yeah.
Also, I think last week, James Phillips updated his LinkedIn saying that he was now the president of I think Digital Transformation Group. Is that a wider remit? Is more products coming into the BizApp mix now?
Yeah, we are kind of expanding and looking around, like how can we create gravity, obviously, around the data, around the applications. We are working very tightly with a lot of the data platform teams in Azure as well. Like if you look at my team and Steve, maybe you remember from our conversations, a lot of the time we spend in the pro developer space is kind of with Azure as well as DevDiv. But that is really to try and expand also the audiences that we can reach and the solutions being built. So obviously all of the, and look, I think just in terms of PowerApps built over SQL, the amount of PowerApps is huge, right? So there is a lot of value. And I think from the pro dev space, we're really trying to make sure that we can make it much easier for pro devs to benefit from the Power Platform. So you can kind of modernize a UI over a legacy system, etc. So you would definitely see kind of the focus around apps and Power Platform and kind of BizApp space start to expand there as well.
There is a noticeable difference in the conversation about pro dev around Power Platform that wasn't there in the beginning. When it first came out, it was all about citizen, and you don't even need a developer. You can build everything without a developer. And I think the developer community started to just about mutiny, so that I know
because I was the target, Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Julie, stop! Don't talk about pro developers. We do see that pivot, and I think maybe when we went out initially, we probably saw it as, look, this is cool for everyone, including pro developers. I don't think we were as explicit to say, look, a pro developer can participate. You can live in your own tooling, and obviously we're investing there as well. But I think we have also invested more appropriately in the right experiences for the pro developers, which kind of pulls that story through. So you can just do more. So it's less about asking the pro developer to build low code. It's more, how do you find kind of the areas to collaborate and just expand on the opportunities that you have with the platform?
Things like the whole ALM story starts getting kind of beyond citizen anyway. And you start,
Yes.
Some of these capabilities and tools are really not citizen focused. One
Yes.
of the things I noticed recently, and I don't know if you've got an answer for this or if it's just a strange thing. We've got an enterprise customer that has got, a bunch of folks building PowerApps. They all seem to be building everything in the default environment. So their default environment has blown up in size.
Yes.
Probably 3/4 of what was built was never used or launched. It was people fiddling around. Probably should have created a developer. Didn't really understand that. And now we've got this default environment with all these apps. Can't figure out which ones are being used, which aren't being used. Somebody built it or needed it. It's consuming all this storage space and API cycles and is there any thought about how do we get this new person who stumbled on PowerApps to not just automatically go build something in the default environment in this big pile?
Yes.
Or is this a unique problem for this customer? Is this something you're seeing?
No, this is my favorite topic. I'm putting my governance hat on. Now you'll get me going for hours, Steve. No, it is not necessarily unique. And it is actually where we see a lot of growth starting from. But I do think there's a few opportunities, I think, for a customer like this. And because we do enable you to start in the default environment without spinning up anything, that is kind of natural, right? I think with some
pile of garbage, though, eventually.
Not always, Steve. Let me get to that.
Okay.
The idea is that of course, you're building stuff and you don't go back and delete it, right? So I think, I don't know if you saw those announcements as part of Ignite, where we're saying these tenant-wide analytics, where before you saw your telemetry per environment, now you kind of have it as part of the full tenant. The idea here, even if you're talking just about the default environment, is to actually build analytics out of the box that you can go and see what are the apps that are being used. That also leads you to the opposite. Which ones are not being used? And so you can go delete. And we are really at the starting point of that journey. We want to focus on policies. How can you set up policies that if something hasn't been used in like 30, 60, 90 days, just delete it or deactivate it, etc. So you start to build up kind of what we think of as hygiene policies, where you can constantly keep it to active usage. But I think that also, Steve, to tie it back to the ALM conversation, what you also want to do there is, let's say you identify an app with thousands of users or hundreds of users. You say, oh, I don't want this in my default environment. It might have started there because that's how you give people the ability to innovate. But you take this app now and you stand up a dedicated environment where you maybe have dev tests and prod, where you now help this business create the guardrails to do kind of what I call a grown-up app development from a life cycle perspective. That's really why we're investing so heavily in analytics, is to allow for visibility into that so that you can also build the guardrails around it.
Well, this will be the year, because we've got what triggered this with this particular customer is they're on an EA renewal. They've been on CRM online licensing up till now, and now they had to convert to a new licensing model, and all of a sudden they're looking at what their storage cost is going to be. And so now looking at this massive increase in storage costs, well, let's go look at what's driving this. So I think you're going to see, because of the length of time Power Platform's been in the market, we're probably getting to that time where you're going to see a lot of EA renewals through probably this upcoming year, where there wasn't even Power Platform around when they signed that EA. They're all going to be making a similar discovery that, hey, this place has kind of gone wild because there was no reason not to, but now the new licensing. So you're going to get a lot of knocking on your door for these tools you're talking about this year, I think.
But I mean,
no,
they're available, right? Those tools now, they're out in market.
Yeah.
There's so much done with the the CAT team, right, around the whole the governance as well. One of our listeners here, Ken, was saying that they've found it very beneficial in their organization that the citizen developer are producing apps and then just it's flowing through to the pro dev side of the organization to build out, which so I think the model is really working. Another question we had from the audience was from Norm around, is there a plan for some type of licensing, kind of like a, an Office, you can get an E3 and E5 license, but a Power Platform license, like a Pro Premium that, included all the apps together. So many, licensing around Power Automate, PowerApps, Power BI, etc. So you could buy a platform license as such.
Like a Power Platform license instead of an app, an individual component one.
Yes. No, look, we are constantly listening to feedback and working through that. We don't currently have plans for that, but we are definitely seeing an increase in asks for it. So I would say, keep the feedback coming, but we currently don't have any concrete plans for launching that. But obviously, as the platform grows and the usage and adoption grows, we'll be fine tuning, right? So we can make sure that it becomes it meets the needs there as well.
One of the things Steven Siciliano brought up on the last call that we had was about the RPA being baked into Windows 10.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Are you related to that at all, or do you have any opinions on that? That seems kind of massive to just give that away.
We are all one platform. Yes, I'm part of that.
Yeah.
No, yes. It's fascinating in so many ways, but I think it's the opportunities that it opens for, right? For how you can start to automate your tasks on your desktop. It's very powerful. And I think in many ways, you have to start one place. You can argue we're giving a lot away with Office as well, and we are, but it is actually helping. It is helping productivity. It is helping to kind of for users to get their hands on the tools. So I think it's been
horse, right? Because once they use that tool, now they've got this stuff now they got to do something with it. And that's going to lead to some other tools that they would need to buy.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
a smart move.
Sense.
Excellent. Anything else from your side, Steve?
I could talk to her for hours. So on the circling back to ISV,
yes,
and AppSource is actually working better than it had in the past. We're seeing.
Hold on, I will take a note.
Yeah, for who? Per?
No, the fact that you said AppSource is working better than in the past.
Oh yes. I haven't. I don't think I've said that in a long time. But I mean, every day we're getting half a dozen new people doing stuff. So that's going well.
That's good.
I brought up to Per in the ISV Connect again, kind of circling back to that thing you remember we brought up at the live summit a long time ago about this idea of ISV ready tag to be applied to some things in the Power Platform that really just aren't quite there yet. Some of the things that we struggle with, our solution is a model-driven Power App.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things was that we saw a bunch of errors recently in ISV Studio on install. And I couldn't figure out what it was, so I posted the message up in the DL, and Matt Barber said the problem is they're trying to install your model-driven Dataverse app in Teams. Like, well, how are they doing that? He says that's something we need to fix because they obviously can't. So somehow or another in Teams, they're being exposed to apps and being given a button to install, but it doesn't actually install. You aware of that?
Not that specific scenario. I do know that when we started to focus on the investments with Teams, one of the things that we are focusing on now coming up as well is to making that very smooth for ISVs as well. So you can very deliberately publish and target it one place, but customers can can install as well, and you can build for teams, so to say, without us adding additional friction for you to have your app surface there. So we are working on that very explicitly. I wasn't aware of the specific issue you brought up, but to your point on ISV ready, that is actually an area where we have been investing a lot, but also more just both customer and ISV ready, where you take so many offerings and we put them together in a platform, and you start to see customers using them together. We are kind of really focused on looking at when these work together in a solution. How do we make sure that runs smoothly? How do we really focus on, before we were very focused on releasing new features. A big part of where we are investing now is really making sure that joint experience is working smooth as well. So hopefully you've seen some.
It's moving from a pile to a platform. I think we built a bunch of stuff and threw it in a pile and called it a platform.
That would not be my word, but yes, I would agree. We are moving towards more of a platform.
We're moving from pile to platform. We're going to quote you on that.
No, you cannot, because I didn't say it.
Just kidding. Well, we've got you. We've had you for about a half an hour, which is the most I told you I was going to try and pin you down for. You even tried to get out of it at the last minute, Mark.
Wow.
I did not. I did, or Mark did.
No. We appreciate you jumping on and talking to us and our listeners about stuff. Anything cool that you want to leave us with that we should be looking forward to that isn't NDA?
No, I think pay attention to.
Look forward to it all.
No. There's lots, but I'm trying to pick. I would say we actually have a lot of cool coming from pro developers. Pay attention there. We are having cool stuff coming out. You will see us start to work on also extensions for VS, which I'm quite sure people will be excited about. Also the governance space, these policies we'll be looking at, as well as the analytics, which really gives you kind of, I see it as the power to let the organization innovate and let them be creative and then build your guardrails versus stopping everything up front. So I think those are some, I really find that these investments should be hugely valuable to a large part of our customers.
Well, we knew that was going to be a risk when they made the decision to open Power App development to all users by default and give admins the ability to go turn it off, because I think they were probably right that if it required admin to turn it on, it never would have gotten turned on.
Yeah.
But then suddenly we've got all these admins that had all this stuff being built they weren't even aware of, and their first reaction is, oh, the crowd's gone wild, we need to shut this down. And that's where all of these tools, it kind of gave you guys some breathing room to get these tools built to be able to say, hey, admin, don't shut it down. Use these tools and understand it instead, because they do like to just shut stuff down that they didn't initiate or don't understand.
I know. Look, and I think that's where the visibility is such an important part, because most customers will realize it's not that risky once you know it's there, because the risky stuff is still being built under your desk, right? You still have real shadow IT apps. They're not Power Platform, right? With Power Platform, at least you have the visibility. So if I was IT, I would invite it in, at least so you know where it is and you can deal with it. So
like you say, people are going to solve their problem one way or another. And if it's not with Power Apps under your governance, it's going to be with some third-party cloud solution you don't know about.
Under your desk. Yeah,
exactly.
There you go.
All right, Julie, thank you very much for spending time with us.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well,
okay.
So surprised you with another one.
Yeah.
That
was good. It's interesting to have her on, and this whole stuff that they've done around governance has been, I think, so important, in that it allows, like you said, you have an environment where people have built a heap of apps and you don't know what the story is. I've just got a new iPhone and I'm going through, configuring it up. And one of the things that says, in the iTunes store, is that if you don't use an app for a period of time, it's just going to unload it off your phone and get rid of it, right? You can still go back to the store and get it at some time. So I think that, if you can put in governance type policies that say, if this app the owner doesn't do anything with it for 90 days or whatever, that it perhaps goes into an archived location, switched off, deprovisioned or whatever. And then after another 90 days, it might, some notification emails, are you going to do anything more? Because we're going to delete it, and allow for that type of thing, which allows all comers. I mean, it's interesting what Ken's saying here is that their IT score of customer service from the IT department is going up now because they're running the governance around this properly, letting people develop their ideas, letting them be innovative, but have a good strategy at either moving them forward to making it a usable app for the company or unloading it. And if it's not, I think that's smart.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably some edge cases there. I know I saw on the DL some folks complaining that an app that they built that's designed to run once every 6 months was getting deleted. So there's some edge cases. That's probably pretty unusual. And I can also see a case where maybe an employee started building some sort of an app. It was pretty sophisticated, really looking like it was going to be a pretty good app, and then maybe left the company. Nobody even knew about it, so it just kind of died on the vine. And there's all this value that somebody built getting just deleted because nobody knows what it is. So some sort of a path to say, hey, here's this thing. Does anybody else want to pick it up? Or
but it's always going to be deleted or lost in that scenario, because if there's nobody running with it, there was obviously no one's going to come along and discover that value in the app accidentally. So it's just like a search engine. The value is it's either there, it's searchable or not. If people are not going to use it, you've really not got the value, period, right?
Yeah, we just was talking about the big customer that we're cleaning up the environments, and on the old licensing, it didn't matter. Now with the new licensing, suddenly it's going to be expensive, so you're forced to have to go into this cleanup. So the first thing we're doing is we're going in and looking at all these environments that were created, and there's tons of environments. They're all running, they're all consuming APIs, they're all taking up storage, and you go look at it, and it's literally some person went and spun up a portal to look at it. Didn't touch it, didn't do anything with it, zero configuration, not being used, but it's out there sitting in space, taking up storage, consuming cycles to do absolutely nothing. And there's a good example of something that should have just been killed after 90 days.
So what did you think of I don't know if you saw around Ignite, the whole stuff coming around mesh and virtual reality and meetings and stuff like that? Did you see any of that?
I saw a little bit of that, but there's so many different things. We got a particular business model focused on a particular path, and we are far from having perfected that entire motion end to end through the customer cycle. And I just try not to let myself get distracted, because we did that when we first came on to Microsoft from Salesforce. We came over to be a Dynamics partner, and there's an awful lot of similarities between the two platforms. Conceptually, they're basically doing the same thing. There's a lot of things are done the same way. So picking up Dynamics was pretty simple, and we were good. And then I let the Microsoft rep talk us into offering Office 365 because they wanted to sell Office when it had launched. So we fire up Office 365, and then he's, you got to be selling this Azure stuff. And okay, so we fire. And I found that we were spending so much time learning these new products that our attention was kind of diverted away from what was happening on the product that we started with. And our skills were actually going down on our core competency because we were too distracted. So I packaged up the Azure and Office 365 business, sold it off to another partner, and we went right back and said, we're just going to focus on one thing and try and do it well. So I remember that whenever some of these new things pop out, I mean, I can look at it and go, that's cool, but I've been, the shiny objects have cost me money. I
mean, even in the biz app space, right? There are the mesh, I assume, is a biz app space, but it's there's so much in this category now, you know, to be across it all. Like there's so many discrete software applications to, you know, to keep up with it.
We don't touch anything on the ERP side of the house, which is a huge part of the whole business application. We don't touch any of that stuff.
Yeah. I haven't heard much about Business Central for a while, speaking of which. I don't know if we're not in conferences anymore. It's like you're not looking at anything that doesn't interest you, it seems.
Yeah, well, I think the point made, but when we were adding on Office 365 and Azure for Dynamics, you know, basically it was CRM was its own thing. You know, it wasn't like part of a business applications group even at that time. You know, there was GP out there, NAV, and something, but those were all specialized and people didn't cross-pollinate at all. And then it all got pulled under this one umbrella. And then it just added so many products inside that umbrella that there's just not any way. I mean, we suffer the same challenge we did trying to take on Office if we decide we're going to jump into this other thing. So I get real picky about the things that we're chasing. And there are things where I think we've got a competitive advantage, potentially a knowledge advantage, that I look back and think, or I lean back and I think that's got some potential as a product, because not every one of their products does. As we mentioned before, Julie came on about checkbox products. The one that you're deeply involved in right now, customer insights, you know, we're going down that path because I see that's something I think we can be good at. And that's something that's got great market potential down the road. Unlike some of these other things that are out there. You know, we stopped pursuing marketing. I mean, we were one of the pilot partners for marketing and just kind of moved away from it.
I mean, Coffee and Dunn's names keeps coming up as seems to be one of the key go-to partners for marketing. He
was with the previous product, and he was involved with the previous product and kind of staked out a reputation around marketing.
Yeah.
And I know him real well, Thomas. And we worked together on several products. We were both part of the pilot, and actually we're working on some joint customers together. We did that big global yacht company where we did the CRM side, he did the marketing side, and they were kind of learning it then, and it was buggy, man. That was some buggy stuff.
Yeah.
But he stayed the course, because that was kind of his reputation was marketing around Dynamics. So he stayed that course, and it wasn't our reputation, so we just kind of slinked out of it. We slinked out of it.
Nice. I see Debbie Dryad saying that BC is getting a lot better, and then Debbie Giles is saying that it's hard to stay up to date with the Power Platform. I felt that ever since it started to explode 3 years ago, it's definitely hard to stay up across everything, especially if you're on a project focused in one area. It is difficult. There's so many more exams and things to do, so much more things to learn these days that, you know, interact with each other. So totally on point about that. Steve, I noticed that the 31st of this month, March, is approaching us. And of course, that's the date of cutoff for whether you get renewed as an MVP or not. So, you know, this is the time of the year that all MVPs are in a mad scamper to make sure their contributions are loaded. And I'm just wanting to check, have you done all your contributions? Have you loaded them so that you can get renewed?
I saw the announcement that because of COVID, all current MVPs are automatically going to be renewed.
Free pass.
Free pass, yep. Automatic renewal of any existing MVPs, automatically renewed for the next cycle because of COVID, regardless of contribution. So I hadn't planned on putting any in there. You didn't see that or read about that?
No, I did. I just want to get your take on it.
Oh, you're trying to scare me into thinking I hadn't put in all my contributions. Well, to be honest, I mean, from a contribution standpoint, I haven't done as much blogging this year. It's just too focused on other things. Yeah. And we do this show, and that's really about all I'm doing. I just have so little interest in doing a session in a virtual event.
Yeah.
I need that audience feedback. I need to see the faces. I need to see that they're understanding or not understanding. And some of these virtual events is just not. It's just not for me. Plus, the biggest reason I used to do sessions was potentially getting paid to fly out to some cool place and hang out with friends.
Yeah.
You take that out of the equation. Now it's just, spending a week putting together a deck to go present to some people in a virtual room for an hour and leave. Then the only value to that is an MVP contribution, one on the list.
Yeah.
So I haven't done any of those.
Yeah. So they said you're more focused on your motorbikes.
Oh yes, definitely been focused on
this year. It's interesting what you say about virtual sessions and stuff. I think I delivered one this entire year, and it was local. It was in Australia, New Zealand. My lead asked me to do a session on personal brand. So I did that.
Is that in person or virtual?
No, it was virtual. It was virtual. But the thing is, I have turned down all other speaking engagements through the year. But, I've trained over 1,000 people in the last couple of months on customer insights, which is all virtual, generally between 80 and 100 people at a time in a session. And, you don't have cameras on, everybody's muted. And I'm just like, boom, downloading, right? Like,
yeah.
The only thing that I get for feedback now is looking at the comments, which is not in real time, is looking afterwards. So it's not like that I can pivot, because when you've got a condensed amount of time to transfer a whole bunch of knowledge, one thing you can't do is really take in-flight questions, because you'll get one person that realizes they can ask a question and you go to answer it. All of a sudden, 15 minutes is burned out of your hard stop delivery time, and everybody else's, that question might not have been an interest to them. So I always hit Q&A at the end. We can run over, but everybody's got the content, why they came on the call to start with, and then they can stay or leave for Q&A or not. But I tell you, it's definitely a different world for me. I've found I've been able to reach so many more people, train so many more people, and I think I could have in person. I'd have been hard-pressed, in the type of training I do, to train 1,000 people in a year if it was in person, right? Because there's generally no more than 30 people in an in-person class, as opposed to, multiple times a week, I'm training 80 plus people at a time, which, their company requires them to do the training. So that they have to be there to get the tick mark, check, all that kind of stuff.
And they're coming from all over. It's like we talked about, there's a bunch of people that wouldn't have shown up to an in-person event. You'd had a much smaller audience in person.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of people I've trained across the Middle East and across Africa and all these different locations, I would not have, wouldn't have qualified to go to these locations. They weren't big enough individually, but when they become part of a time zone area where you've got people from Europe and as far north as, the Scandinavian countries, right down then to the bottom of Africa, that's a big swath of people.
That whole vertical slice of the globe.
Definitely changes things. Looks like we're coming up on time. Yeah. Thanks, Norm. Thanks for those that have joined us today. Have you noticed my backdrop starting to improve a bit?
Getting there. So you got some fancy little lighting in there.
Yeah.
And you figured out, what was your speaker problem?
Look at that. There's the old workhorse.
Yeah, right. Now it's a Memento.
Yeah. Now I've got right in front of me here, 48-inch screen. Yeah. On top of that, I've got a 32-inch screen.
Right.
And then on this one here, which is my presentation going out live, is just a small screen, but it's 1080p. So I do all my broadcasts off that, so I know that it's not giving people this kind of postage stamp size when I'm doing presentations. So although I don't really need this monitor for daily work, it's just my presentation screen, so it seems to work well. But having a 48-inch screen
too, right?
Yeah. I don't know if my
the whole thing.
Camera reach around there and see it, but
I need to reach around.
Check out the curve on that screen.
That's nice.
Is that nuts?
Oh, they're both curved.
Yeah, both of them. The one above as well. Yeah, and then you can see over in the back corner there, the computer. But yeah, it's coming together. A few more things to do, and soon I'll do my whole cable tidy, get it all tidied up and squared away, and Yeah, it's
Yeah, for all
definitely.
the visitors that you have there, right?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is that I find I am, you wouldn't believe, I reckon environment is so important for productivity.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I am getting through like a phenomenal amount of work now that I just have everything's here. Like, I was surprised how constraining a laptop has become over time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it'll be hard to go back after you get used to the big monitor, multiple monitor. Very difficult to go back to a laptop. You know,
I don't think I'll need to, apart from when you go on the road to do something.
Well, you see, my environment, I decided to be on the beach.
Yeah, nice. I like that. I like that.
I
I
need to get a
love your
sound
window in the
machine
back
with
there
some
looking out
wave
over the
noises
ocean.
in here to really add to it. All right, man. It looks like we've killed another hour. Hope everybody enjoyed our secret
Yeah, great
guest.
having a new
And
guest. It's awesome, man.
yeah, I look forward to next week. I've already got the next one lined up. You're going to love that one
Well,
too.
in a fortnight time, right? And we moved this time
That's right.
around. Did your daylight saving or your time zone change this week?
Yeah, we had a change here in the US, so we shifted it. I don't know who all is on the call from the US. I think most of the people maybe are,
Yeah.
but no, maybe not everybody. So I don't know
All
how that
good.
impacted other folks, but
All righty.